Morning. Thought I'd go a little bit early, 2 minutes early. I've got someone arriving very soon for a meeting. How are we all? Hello, hello, hello. Let me just get rid of this. It's Thursday morning. My God. Nadia's been gone. When did she go? Saturday? It seems like seconds, and I think she's back tomorrow night. She's either back tomorrow night or Saturday morning. How are we all? Bethan Williams, Emily Denmaid, Margaret O'Brien, Laura Lawler, your badge has gone. Oh dear, what badge? Oh, I see your membership badge. Oh, maybe your membership must have elapsed. April Hill, hello, Shara Louis, Stephanie Green, Henrietta Henson, Beth T, Laura Lawler. Oh, sorry, just said hello to Laura Lawler. Kate Woodruff, Leor, you're late. Do not worry, you haven't missed anything. We've literally been up for 1 minute. I started early. You're not late, I started early. I'm one of those irritating people who arrives early at a party. I arrive early at my own party. Lorna Jane Sullivan, Morning Jark. I quite like that. Nicholas Sinnott, Sinead C80, Paul Wilson, Gabrielle, Joanne Roby, Maria S, Stuart G, hope you're well, Karen Busby, Shirley Finlayson, how are you? Nanny, I loved your slate sign. Sabrina Neal, morning all. My daughter starts college today with all her mental health and eating disorder. I'm so worried. I'm praying today may be the start of her wanting to live again. Oh, Sabrina. Yeah, it's where are we at? It's been a very confusing few days, or odd few days, hasn't it? On one level, it feels like a lot's changed, and yet the language that's been used feels like they're trying to pretend nothing's changed. Does anyone feel like that? Does anyone have that sort of sense? Let me take this a bit closer. Does anyone have that sense? Huh? Lee, it's going. Okay, Lee. Well, obviously we're missing Nadia very, very much. I'm sure you are too. She's all-encompassing, isn't she? She's like the grout between the tiles, and then if she's not there, the tiles fall out. A very pretty grout, obviously. It's strange. It's strange. It's me and the girls have our moments of insanity and madness, but there's a general calmness, it has to be said, in the house. But we miss it not being calm, if you know what I mean. We miss it not being calm. I hope you're well, Lee. How are things where you're at? Do follow Lee, everyone. His burgeoning, nascent YouTube channel is lovely, and I think it's going to go on to big things. Just remember, you're sowing seed at this point. It's going to grow into something very big. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. You don't want to build a wall. You want to knock down the wall. So yes, Lee, thank you for asking. So it's very strange without her. It's very strange. It's odd, isn't it? It's odd sort of online and on social media. You realise how sort of active she is. So it's odd not seeing her sort of bubbling up with her little messages of, I don't know, meditative and mindful. I mean, the irony is I see the mindful messages on her Instagram, and then of course I see her minutes before or minutes after, not as mindful as she comes across in those. Lee Peart, P-E-A-R-T. If you search Lee Peart on YouTube and subscribe to his channel, you will for sure be entertained and intellectually stimulated at the same time, which is quite something. Not many people who can straddle both things. Moira Instance, I'm good, thank you. Hello to Perth, Australia. Hazel Caldera. Yes, so Theresa Clark, Boris is becoming a dictator. Strong language. Does anyone else feel that? Does anyone else feel like there's been massive change, and yet there's a sense that they wanted to pretend like nothing's changed, and yet at the same time lots has changed? I think the danger with this is, I know with Kiki and Maddie, it's been a bit of a belly blow, this whole idea of the rule of six. Less because they don't feel they can keep to it or observe it, but poor old Maddie sort of had a moment where she just said, Dad, it feels like there's never going to be a moment out of it. And I think with the benefit of experience and age, and the older you are, the more sort of long in the tooth you are, you know, where the longer in the tooth that you are, that you sort of think, well, okay, this is a longer short period. We're going to get through it. We will get through it and all that. But of course, kids, youngsters, teenagers, however intelligent they are, however educated they are, you know, being young is all about being carefree, isn't it? In some capacity, well, most capacities. And one thing this thing has removed is any ability for carefreeness. And what happens is they just feel that there are grown-ups just simply saying, well, what's wrong with you? Just get to grips with it. But of course, to every youngster, we are all only in our own heads. And for this generation and the different generations of ages, you know, from 12 up to 18 and what have you, they're thinking, but this is my time. And it's not like this is my time, I want to now go against the rules and cause havoc, but this is my time, it's getting us down. And so when you get down, you have moments where you reach out to friends or hug or do things or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I just think there's a lot of naming and shaming of youngsters at the moment. It's, you know, it's Daily Mail-esque headlines. It's the young to blame. It was on GMB this morning. You know, it's the young to blame. You know, actually, it's not the young to blame. It's this bloody virus to blame. Yes, we all have our part to do and our part in it. But I think to stigmatise and blame a generation, societally, we run a huge risk of when we need those youngsters to care for us in our old age, when we wonder why they have absolutely no concern for us, it's because we've probably dismissed them all as selfish, self-serving and all the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous when you get into generational shit-sticking. We talked about this yesterday, didn't we? Lee, what did you say? I think Boris is doing this so that he gets the big moment just before Christmas where he can say, we can meet again, and he's the big hero. Do you think this is him sort of taking us down low, knowing that it's not going to get as bad as he's making out, so he can be the big hero? So do you think he's going to come out like on December the 1st, like Nadia in Vlogmas, going first signs of Christmas, and he's going to be wearing a Santa's outfit? I don't think I'd want to sit on Boris's knee if he was Santa, would you? He'd say, what would you like for Christmas, Marky? And I'd say, to remain in Europe, please. But I see what you're saying, Lee. You think this is I don't know. I'd like to think that's the case, but I don't know if he has that sort of blue sky long-term thinking, does he? Mind you, I suppose maybe he does. That's what he did in terms of like running for leadership, wasn't it, all that? But it's a good theory. I'm with you, Lee, on that. Is it Boris, though? Isn't he just a front man now? A front man for who? For Witty and Valence? Witty and Valence. I don't know, they sound like knights of the King Arthurian, don't they? Sir Valence and Sir Witty. It's like King Arthur. Shout out to Paigey. Gabrielle, you're right. So test ambitions. What do we think of his testing ambitions? I mean, so the reports are that there's been a leaked document suggesting that their ambitions for, what's the moonshot? What does he mean by moonshot? What's moonshot? I keep seeing this moonshot. I keep thinking of him mooneying. But this idea that they're going to spend the equivalent of what they spend on the NHS every year on testing. 10 million a day, is it? Or something ridiculous? Do you know what I mean? What does moonshot mean? Where is Cummings? He's sort of lurking in the background, isn't he? He's in one of those sort of wooden panelled, hidden sort of spaces in the briefing room, isn't he? Or maybe he's in the lectern, sort of talking up to Boris like that. Moonshot is like a shot in the dark, may not work. Welcome, Totty66, as a family guest. If you fancy joining as a family guest, follow sorry, what's your name? Totty66. Join Totty66. Hit the join button. So he's saying this is a stab in the dark, basically. So what he said is, let's go for a stab in the dark. Let's reach for the stars. Shoot for the moon, and you'll hit the stars. They'll aim for the highest they can, whilst completely hemorrhaging cash towards something that, great if you're testing, but it's like someone said, there are so many elements to the testing that doesn't work that it's going to be a shocking, what's the language that's used today? A shocking, it's very strong language, waste and corruption on a cosmic scale. suppose they're saying cosmic because we're going for the moon analogy. Shoot for the moon and you'll hit the stars. Leaked documents reportedly show the government planning to carry out up to 10 million coronavirus tests a day, costing approximately £100 billion, almost as much as the government spends on the NHS. Many scientists expressing doubts. This is waste, corruption on a cosmic scale. What's that? Louise Jones. Mark, I've been invited to take part in the largest COVID test research study from the Imperial College of London. As anyone else? Wow, Louise Jones. Will you be allowed to share in that with us, or do you have to sign a sort of NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, where you're not allowed to mutter a word? That's fascinating. So yeah, so a couple of things here. So Christmas, all the headlines on the papers, once again, because let's scare the population, let's depress the population, is that Christmas is lost. Is Christmas lost? What do we think, guys? What do we think, guys? Is Christmas lost? Yes or no? Are we going to have in any way resembling? I think Lee might be of the opinion that this is all a bit of a sort of stage managed situation in order for him to kind of pound through with a sort of superhero Father Christmas cape on. I will still be, we'll all be still, yeah, absolutely, Stuart G. Of course, I should rephrase that. We'll all be having Christmas. We can't not have Christmas. But do you think Christmas is not lost? It will be different, but it's never lost. Do you think these headlines are slightly hysterical? I mean, I bloody hope. Zoom Christmas, it's what you make it. Zoom Christmas. We just have to do things differently. Groups of 6. I mean, how's that going to work? Yeah, I mean, so many families are more than 6 people, aren't they? Vicky Preston, my daughter has every single symptom of corona. She was tested and it came back negative. She's isolating regardless. Her boyfriend has all symptoms too. She can't get a retest locally. That would be disastrous, wouldn't it? If you get false negatives. If you're sitting there with a great big sign across your forehead saying, I've got COVID, or a symptom that says I've got COVID, and yet the COVID test doesn't tell you you've got COVID. Some may prefer it, Jackie Valino. What you're saying, it removes difficult choices. Yeah, I know what you mean. Christmas can be quite a stressful time, can't it? I think one of the exceptions, Leo, is if you're inherent housebound bubble family, so that would be us including Nan, exceeds 6, you're all right. But we have a dilemma, don't we? Because if there's 5 of us with Nanny Di, no one will be allowed over one person will be allowed over for Christmas. From Nadia's family, and they're next door. You'll only be able to have one person. Yes, I don't mind spending Christmas at home with my daughters. Christmas will be pyjama day. It's a curious one, isn't it? Sandra Lupson, Boris Johnson's definitely a dictator. The government are breaking international law and admitting to it. In terms of Brexit, it's quite phenomenal, isn't it? It's quite phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, he's riding a cart and horses through through the legalities of Brexit. It's weird. They'll break the law if they feel it floats with the majority or if it goes with their agenda and attitude. Dominic Cummings, likewise. It's quite phenomenal, isn't it? How much we're tolerating a sort of... It really does feel like none of them really know what they're doing. Chrissy, Mark, do you think I'm being unreasonable not being happy about my 17-year-old going to an all-night party this weekend? Her dad is high risk. Am I unreasonable? No, I don't think you are. Certainly if your husband's high risk. Does your child know about that? I mean, how important is the party? Can the party be reduced to 6? It's tricky. I mean, these are some of the terrible decisions. I mean, friendship groups amongst kids generally, it's hard for children, isn't it? So on the one hand, they're being told, don't get into groups of more than 6 when you're socialising, but it's fine if you go to school. It's really hard optics on that to try and sell it to your kids when they come in and go, that classic thing, it was all right for you to have a drink. It was all right for you to have a drink. Not that any of us have ever said that, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't stand there and go, you must not drink. Oh, no, you had a drink. It's that same thing, isn't it? You mustn't go and see more than 5 other people. But I'm in a class of 24. Janet Sharp, so educated but so thick. Janet Sharp, you've gone to the very heart of what we talk about in our book. Just because you're educated to the highest of academic standards, you can still prove to be emotionally and in terms of life skills, remarkably stupid. Was it ever explained why 6? Me too. Why did they hit upon 6? Yeah, let's see the science. Why 6 and not 5? Why 6 and not 7? Why 6? Why an even number? Why not an odd number? Now, Teresa Clark, you mentioned something that really intrigues me. A COVID marshal. There is talk of introducing COVID marshals. Now, this detail, for me, is the most worrying of all, because sorry, I was just reading a message here. This is the most worrisome part of it all, because really this is a sanctioning of busybodying, naming and shaming, pointing and all that kind of stuff. And it's not about whether people have got things to hide or whether people should and shouldn't do stuff. I just think culturally, once you let that genie out of the bottle, you can't really put it back in. And I think one of the downsides of the whole bloody thing has been the finger pointing, finger wagging and all that kind of stuff. And I think now, to sanction it is just gonna, I think we have a real risk with this coronavirus. Let's see if I'm proved right, that there's a massive generational rift between people over a certain age and youngsters is going to develop. A massive disconnect, almost on a scale equivalent to, there was such a huge, one of the biggest generational disconnects was between the war generation, say my nan and granddad, and the baby boomers, wasn't it? As they hit the 60s, 70s, and they all went mad, and it was like flower power and all that kind of stuff. I think we're going to have another one of those. Because in a weird way, because of COVID, we're becoming a little bit more conservative, sort of closed off, interior, inward looking and all that kind of stuff. And youngsters, being young is all about the opposite. Being young is all about outward looking and new experiences and multitude of experiences, isn't it? I really, really worry. I really, really worry that there's going to be a huge antagonism between young and old. Yeah. What do you guys think? What do you think, guys? What do you guys think? I'm all for litter police, me too. People are not going to take to the marshals. Yeah, I wonder what the marshals is. It going to be like Judge Dredd? Is it going to be like 2001 AD or whatever, 2000 AD, whatever that comic was? And they're going to walk around and go, "You must step inside." Are they going to be like parking attendants? I see. What's that? I thought it was odd, says Gabrielle, that witty Boris and Valance seemed oddly positive in the briefing. Yeah. Beth T, can't bear hypocrisy. Family members berate young people for going to pubs, yet they visit families, some vulnerable, and hug and kiss them. They already have the marshals in Boston, Lincolnshire. They walk around with a long pole with messages on like a big lollipop. You're joking. Dawn, are you joking? I can't tell if that's a piss take. James Flanagan, I'm really worried about the UK media. We get it over here on Irish TV, but the differences in Irish media and British media is astonishing. Yeah, I must admit, our media, I think, has been diabolical. I think I've said it many times, but I think Ofcom needs to be pulled into it. It's your 3-week review, Laura Lawler, in Scotland today. Simple, just carry a whistle and ball and say you're a football team. Julie Everts, I wouldn't want that job, COVID Marshal. Will they be in uniform or plain clothes? I think they'd have to be plain clothes, wouldn't they, to find people? Otherwise, as soon as you see someone with a sort of fluorescent jersey on, everyone will just part, won't they? Karen R, perhaps they were happy at the maybe you're suggesting that they were sort of calm at the briefing because the scientists didn't want to open so quickly anyway. So they're kind of glad to row back on the rules. This does go back to that strange trade-off Whitty talked about, didn't he? Open the schools, but maybe we close the pubs. High-vis jackets. Why did Ant and Dec not need to socially distance? But maybe, haven't Ant and Dec gone into, didn't they go into quarantine together? Weren't they in lockdown together? I think they might have. I know for some crews, for some casts, you know, if you've been together for the period of time and you've been tested and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you can create your own bubbles. I can think of countless people who'd love to do the COVID job. I think most of them give us thumbs down. It all happened fast, just after the cheap meals. It did, didn't it? It's like, go out, eat. Here's the other problem. It's a really hard sell to youngsters. And when I was trying to comfort Maddie the other evening when the whole 6 thing started, Maddie, it's like I said to Maddie, youngsters are feeling the fact that they're saying it's okay to go out. Everything about what we do is fine economically. And I get that, of course that's important, but you can't say that to the total detriment of everything that works on a spiritual, emotional level for us. It's like, otherwise, what are we? Are we just economic pawns that just move around, the economy, or are we actually human beings with feelings and emotions? If you remove, or if you appear as a government to only prioritise the economic connection between people, and even let's think about it, schooling is really only an extension of that. Schooling is the system to get people into jobs that probably won't exist anyway, getting grades that are probably notional anyway, to go to universities that probably won't be teaching in person anyway. But then, so let's assume but also getting kids to school so that parents and adults can go back to work. They want everyone in our cities, but what they're also saying is, but we don't want you to have any emotional human interaction. So they're stigmatizing any of the emotional side of being a human, but they're justifying all of the kind of risks on trains, on planes. I mean, again, it's a constant contradiction for me that you can sit on a plane for over 3 hours next to complete strangers, but you can't sit in a theatre. Do you know what I mean? I mean, at some point, your population and people, and youngsters especially, are going to go, fuck this. It's all right to do it so long as it's for the economy, but we are not just economic counters on a board. I mean, I know the government would like to think we are, but we're not. And if you remove the emotional, spiritual, human component to us all, then of course we're not going to get back on trains just like that if it makes us harder up and runs the risk of us getting ill. Really frustrates me. It really frustrates me. It's such... There's been no human emotional contingent to anything that's been announced by the government. It's been Etonite toffs, for whom none of this really affects them anyway. Let's face it. Not on a sort of meaningful level. Etonite toffs, sort of just playing battleships. That's what it feels like. Fucking hell, makes me so cross. When I get into it, I try to be balanced and I try to be fair and all that kind of stuff. When I get into it, it's so tilted. The playing field is so tilted. Good morning from Long Beach, California, Mo Power. Just tuned in, sounds interesting. Hello, Long Beach. I think it was on Long Beach, California that we saw Jaws on an outdoor screen. It was so cool. It's so awful, Lucy Rose. Boris told us to go out for food and help out, now telling us to stop going out now. Well, I mean, I suppose they would say, but this is the problem. You get politicians onto it. Well, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying don't go out. No, what they're saying is do everything that keeps the economy going, but we're going to try and make it really difficult for you to do anything that means there's a purpose to life. Do you know what I mean? What are we? Just beasts just to spend money? I mean, we're really showing up what our culture is, aren't we? It's really revealing what our culture is. We are just financial beans on a great big board. Other news is it's Freshers Week, so of course there's lots of fears and worries about youngsters going off to college and doing all the normal naughty stuff that goes on in Freshers Week. It's a genuine concern. I see that. It makes sense. One thing they could do, universities, is not tell students, once students have committed to rental costs, that then all their courses are online. I think colleges had a duty to tell all students this before they headed off. I think, in a weird way, I think there should have been a governmental decree that all courses were perhaps online for the first term of this year, so all students and everyone had clarity and were clear on this. Jenny Mann, sorry, hate this hamster ball they want to keep us in. I know, and I do think it only takes, I mean, most people will be like, well, that's the hamster ball of life and that's fine. Okay, cool, that's fine, we have to partake in it. But it only takes a microscopic percentage of the population to question this. And I think that's what's happened with not everyone returning to work and the trains not being as busy and some people electing to work from home, is that it doesn't take a huge number of people to actually go, hang on a minute, this whole system is bullshit. It doesn't serve me best. I'm asking a few questions and I'm a human and I'm allowed to ask a few questions. Isn't that the point of a democracy? And so in asking those questions, as soon as we step back from it, that's what makes the economy shudder. Because we realise that our economy is based upon, and this is going to sound really out there, but our economy, unfortunately, is based upon us all being slightly trapped within it. You know, this is where we have to get a bit kind of real with the idea of what freedom is. Yeah, freedom of choice and all that kind of stuff, freedom to buy X amount of this, that and the other. It's a freedom of sorts, but it's freedom within a system. It's freedom within a very specific system. And I just think that we have to have, so I'm not suggesting, you know, you bring down the system, but we have to have flexibility within the system. And if this is a moment where the economic sort of norms shift a bit and we don't all have to spend money on train and it helps the planet, then let's embrace it rather than just fight against it and like addicts run back to the trough and start stuffing our faces in the same way that we did. Not that anyone really wants to do that, but the government wants us to do that. It needs some blue sky thinking. It needs some blue sky thinking. And we are trapped in a system. It is a system. It is a system. And it's a system that sometimes is great and sometimes can work. It's a system that's brilliant when everything's on the up. But at a moment like now, we have to, at the edges, wriggle. And if that means urban centres have to shift, they have to shift. Because just because that's how it was keeping us all broke, stressed, and destroying the planet. So if this is an opportunity to shift that, not dismantle it completely, but just shift it, precisely, Maureen Cannon, something's got to give. That's as simple as it is. Hit the thumbs up icon if you think that's a reasonable approach. I think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable to question things. Sorry, just checking this call. I think it's reasonable to query these things every now and then. Yeah. So, other bits of news. Kevin Spacey is being sued by actor Anthony Rapp and another man over alleged 1980s attacks. So that's not going away for him. I think there was a moment where maybe Spacey thought that he, you know, I'm not suggesting that he's necessarily done these things, but there's a lot of kind of kerfuffle around it. So it looks like that story is going to be kicked back into the mainstream. Both accusers are suing Spacey 61 for unspecified damages, claiming the alleged attacks have caused psychological damage. So that's kind of the big thing. A lot of people saying Ellen DeGeneres' show is back on, and it's going to be interesting to see how she contends with all of the fuss and nonsense around the Be Kind issues. So we'll probably report back on that too. I'm sure we're going to be doing a showbiz when Nads is back about the Kardashians, the end of the Kardashians, a little reflection there. If you don't fancy that, avoid it. Share your thoughts with us today, guys. Share your thoughts. Do you think it's fair to blame the young? Comments below. Do you think we have our democracy isn't quite as free as we like to think it is, and that this crisis has revealed the extent to which we're kind of all slightly trapped within this system a bit? Do we feel that we're stigmatizing the young? Share it with us. Share it with us. I see the Samaritans number going up. Darren boy, reach out to the Samaritans, please, please, please. You've been there. You know the deal. If you're struggling, matey flip, give them a call. Give them a call. Reach out to people here. They'll tell you what to do, and then go and do it straight after this. Straight after this, go and call the Samaritans. It's the best thing you can do. All right, guys, I'm scooting off now, and there will be content landing on the channel later. There was a movie review went up last night for the new Charlie Kaufman from me and the girls and Nanny Di. Curious film, go and check it out. And the trailer for Dune landed. We're all very excited about that, so do go and check that out. Have a lovely day. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoy having a news digest and a bit of a moan and a groan. and speak to you soon.